Hi, I'm Matt Buzzi from PCMag, and this is the Alienware M15 R4. It's the latest rev of the flagship M15 laptop, and it looks a lot like the M15 R3. They share an exterior. That's not what this update is about. It's the same sci-fi sort of style that I really like. I think it stands out without, it lets you know it's a gaming laptop. It doesn't use the traditional red and black color scheme. It has a unified, at least well-considered style to me. So I think that's worthy of praise. I think it's kind of cool, and I think it's different, if nothing else. Everyone may not like it, but I do kind of find it appealing. I like the white, I like the RGB ring on the back. So all in all, I approve of the design. That's not what this update's focused on, so more of the same. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And maybe on the R5, we'll see a major redesign. But here, we were focused on the internals, and that is the RTX 3070 in this particular unit. Nvidia just announced its 30 series GPUs, the Ampere-based GPUs at CES 2021, and that's what's in these new units, and that's what the main update is all about. There are a lot of promises and draws about the 30 series that would force you to upgrade. If you have a 2080, it's a little murkier. That's a new GPU. Do you need to run out and get it? On desktop, we saw a pretty huge leap. The performance and the value of those new graphics cards compared to the 20 series was pretty big. On laptop, it's not quite so big. Now that we've tested one ourselves, we don't have to be as theoretical about what it'll offer. And it is better, but it's just not as much of this leap that, for me, tells you to run out and buy it right away. If you have anything older than that, though, if you are on a 10 series graphics card especially, or you have a lower RTX card, then maybe it's worth the jump. Especially if your laptop is in other ways showing its age or you want some other features. We are still talking about 10 to 15 frames per second across the board gain compared to the RTX 2080. So this isn't even at the top of the hierarchy. The 3080 is above this, and it's still beating out the top card from the previous generation by a good amount of frames. It's also not all about the raw frame rates. The RTX cards, obviously, their calling card, if you will, is this ray tracing technology, this advanced lighting technique, real-time lighting effects, reflection, shadows, and they're very demanding to run. They look great, but it's very straining on the hardware. And for the 20 series, the top GPUs could get away with it a little better on desktop, but hitting 60 frames per second, not always the easiest thing to do, even with powerful hardware. These make that a lot more plausible. The 10 to 15 frames without ray tracing gain is good, but this is getting almost double what those old GPUs were able to get with ray tracing enabled, and I think that's really part of the draw. We tested this with Metro Exodus, which is a straining game in general. I don't think it's not the most well-optimized game, but it has ray tracing, and that makes it one of the good games to test with because there's a built-in benchmark. This got 68 frames per second on that test at nearly maximum settings with ray tracing enabled at 1080p. That's good. That's very good. There's really no beating around the bush there. 60 frames per second with ray tracing on is kind of the dream for a AAA game. If you're a gamer who does more competitive multiplayer titles and you maybe want a high refresh screen, you can push those. But for games that make use of ray tracing, it's like single player story games that look high fidelity. They really push the visuals more than anything else, and that's kind of where the 30 series GPUs can help it excel. This is a 4K display on this unit, which I would maybe not recommend over a high refresh option. It's an OLED screen. It does look really good, but that's sort of, to me, not as appealing as a high refresh display. You can push those frame rates in multiplayer games. The 4K resolution is mostly too strenuous to play at anyway. The 30 series is also much more capable at 4K, but not with 4K and ray tracing. So if you're gonna have to pick one or the other, I would probably just go high refresh, turn your ray tracing on. The lower resolution will give you higher frame rates because the 4K is still a bit of a bridge too far unless you turn off ray tracing altogether. Some people love 4K, they don't care as much about the ray tracing, or they don't care as much about the frames per second. So I guess there's an option for everybody out there. There are other configuration options, of course. Alienware is a Dell company. There's always ways to customize your order. That includes a 3080. You can pack a 3080 into this laptop, even though our configuration is rocking a 3070. We also have a terabyte of SSD storage in here. This does use a Core i7 10th generation processor. It is not the 11th generation Tiger Lake H series GPUs that were announced at CES. So that part didn't get an upgrade. This is GPU focused. Otherwise, the same laptop, as I said. The battery life on our unit, almost 7 hours, which is improved. You can thank OLED for that because it does actually improve battery life. We've seen in our tests. I'm a little surprised it's quite that good given the 4K display, but I'll take it. Gaming laptops, not usually the category where you look for a ton of hours. You expect those out of these laptops, but they're getting better. And this one, even with its 4K screen, almost 7 hours makes it actually usable to take with you. And at almost 4.5 pounds, it's a little on the heavier side, but for how much power is in this, that's pretty acceptable. And if you need to take it on the go, at least sometimes, you have that option without really not looking forward to dragging around a 7 to 8 pound laptop. So it gets another positive mark in that regard. So given that this laptop is the same design as the previous edition, and the RTX 3070 is the real star of the show here, that's about all I have to talk about for this system. I like the performance a lot. It's maybe not as big of a leap as you would have hoped based on the desktop performance of the 30 series, but raw frame rates up. Eventually, these GPUs will make their way into pretty much all high-end gaming laptops, so that's going to end up sort of as a passive built-in upgrade in performance for anybody who's buying a new laptop going forward. I would say maybe if you have a newer RTX 20 series, like a 2080, you don't have to run out and get it. But if you're someone who really likes ray tracing and wants to be running that more smoothly, go for it. If there's other things wrong with your laptop or you have an even older one, definitely an appealing draw. I think the frame rates might not always hit 60 FPS depending what game you're playing. You might have to lower some settings at 4K and ray tracing. That's a bit too strenuous even for the new GPUs. Perhaps the 3080 will be even better. But I really have no complaints otherwise about this laptop. It's a little on the expensive side, but for everything that you're getting, the 4K OLED screen, the terabyte of SSD, the nice design, the 3070 of course, and some extra features that, like the perky RGB lighting that add to the cost, it's pretty reasonable. There are some less expensive options, there are some more expensive options. This is obviously in the high end to begin with. You kind of know that coming in when you're shopping for a high-end GPU. So we like the previous version of this laptop, and I like this one pretty much about as much. Check out our full review for benchmarks and see how this GPU did on a variety of games and scenarios and resolutions. Thank you so much for watching.